Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Lazy Grouse and today we're gonna go through all the units and mechanics of the Dark Elf factions in SFO Grimhammer 2. The Blackhawk Reaper is a new hero unit with 3 different weapon loadouts. You have the dual wielding variant, the sword and handbow variant and the greatsword variant. They all have access to Vile Net, which deals damage over time and immobilizes the enemy. They have Dreadful Gaze, which lowers accuracy and reload skill in enemies nearby. Bleed, which deals damage over time. Murderous Mastery, and the ability No Mercy, which is an ability granted to all Dark Elf units that is not a single entity monster, which gives them base weapon damage, AP damage, and cause fear when they're winning melee combat. The dual wielding variant have fast attacks and the highest melee defense amongst the variants, and the ability Strength Through Spite, which increases base weapon damage and melee attack in allies within range. The sword and handbow variant have the lowest melee combat stats, but of course gets a ranged attack with anti-large and fire whilst moving. They also have volley of dark arrows, which is a magic missile attack with 3 charges. And finally, the greatsword variant have area attacks and the highest weapon strength among them, and gets the heroic killing blow ability, which further increases his high weapon strength. The Ice Blades are a new Bleaksword regiment of renown that replaces the Dreadspears regiment, the Hellebronai. They have Frostbite and the Chilling Aura, which lowers the speed of the enemy, which makes them very hard to disengage from. And compared to normal Bleakswords, they have much higher melee defense, they have gold shields, a small armor increase and more leadership. This makes them very tanky both against melee and ranged and will hold the front line really well. And they also get these cool ice swords. The Shadowfire Guards are a legendary unit that is exclusive to Malekith. They are a mix of Black Guards of Naggarond and Phoenix Guard, and as expected from this mix, they have very good combat stats, but also multiple strong abilities, like Azure Form Ranks, which gives nearby allies physical resistance and melee defense, Sons of Naggarond, which makes nearby lords and heroes unbreakable, Witness of Destiny, which gives them melee defense, damage resistance, and leadership when losing in battle, Aura of Dread, which lowers enemy attack and damage, and Martial Mastery to boost their already high melee stats, as well as Murderous Mastery. They are a very strong unit and makes units nearby better by just being close. Next is the Manticore Lords, which are also exclusive to Malekith. They're a unit of 4 armored Manticores ridden by Black Guards of Naggarond. They're very fast with high melee attack, great weapon damage, and a devastating charge. They do have a low melee defense, but with high armor and health, they can survive quite a while in combat. They also have Lethal Poison, which deals damage over time and debuffs the enemy, as well as Death Fist, which deals high damage to lords and heroes and debuffs their armor, as well as Poison Bomb's Bombard ability. They also have Frenzy, Murderous Mastery, and Causes Terror, and these are absolute beastly units that will destroy most things very quickly. The Creeping Dread is a legendary Blackhawk Corsair's handbow unit exclusive to Lokhir Felheart. They have greatly increased melee attack and a smaller increase in armor, melee defense, health and charge bonus, which of course makes them much deadlier in melee combat than their normal counterparts. They also have an activated ability called Dreadful Raiders, which increases their damage, leadership and gives them terror. They also debuff enemies hit with What I Will Do To You, which actually increases the speed of the enemy but lowers their attack and leadership. They're a very versatile unit as they are deadly both in melee and at range. The Helldrake pack is an awesome looking monstrous infantry unit exclusive to Lokhir Felheart. They have pretty average stats with a high armor piercing weapon damage and frenzy to make them more deadly with high leadership, and overall they're a pretty decent mid-tier unit. Next we have the Sea Dragon, the bigger badder variant of the Helldrake, which is also exclusive to Lokhir Felheart. It has good combat stats as dragons usually do, but it can't fly. It also doesn't have the traditional dragon breath, but instead causes an explosion around it that deals high damage and debuffs the enemy with lower damage and magic resistance, but also increases fire resistance. Lokhir Felheart also gets access to his unique mount Lokhir, which is this purple sea dragon. Pleasure Cultists are a melee infantry unit exclusive to Morathi. They're a cheap, very offensive early game unit that can deal a lot of damage quickly with a high melee attack and some decent damage, but they also die very quickly with low armor and mediocre melee defense. They do have the ability Exceptional Protection, which gives them a small amount of damage mitigation, but that won't keep them alive for long. Daemonettes of Slaanesh is a demon infantry unit exclusive to Morathi. They have Vanguard and decent speed, which makes them good at maneuvering behind enemy front lines. They also have good melee attack and armor piercing damage, as well as magic attacks to circumvent physical resistance, but with a low melee defense and armor, they're a bit of a glass cannon. They do have Charmed to lower enemy attack, which helps mitigate their low defenses, as well as physical resistance to help with their survivability, and Unbreakable, which means they'll stay in the fight until the end. The Hellebronai Executioners are exclusive to Crone Hellebron. They're a spear variant of Helldrake Executioners, and as a spear unit, they are a much more defensive unit. They have lower melee attack and weapon damage, but a higher melee defense, and they also have Overwhelm, which lowers reload skill and damage, as well as charge defense versus large. Most of the Dark Elf factions have gotten some new mechanics and currencies. Malekith has gotten the new currency Witch King's Authority, which is gained from major settlements and can be spent both on his unique tech tree and his new campaign feature Glory to Malekith. In this panel there are 4 categories. The first one, Erefanarion, you can spend authority to buff certain units for 10 turns. Dreadful Predators buffs your cav and chariot units. Kane's Blessing buffs your higher tier infantry units. Creature from the Depths buffs your monster unit, and Rookie Discipline buffs your baseline infantry and ranged units. In the Witch King category, you can spend authority to gain some strong campaign buffs for 10 turns, although both Erefanarion and Witch King increase in cost for every lord and every settlement you gain. In the Harmony category, you pick from 2 very strong choices, with infrastructure changing how your economy works, and military, which gives you huge diplomatic buffs. But if you choose Harmony, you cannot choose Destruction. The Destruction choices also changes your campaign, but instead of focusing on buildings and diplomacy, Destruction focuses on income from war and combat buffs. And of course, if you choose Destruction, you can't choose Harmony. The technology tree has also gotten some drastic changes. The standard technologies are still here, but doesn't need prerequisites, and you can start at any of the categories. But the big changes are further to the right. Uniting the Druchii category unlocks by getting Nagaron to tier 5. Places of Power unlocks by conquering certain settlements. Reclaiming Ulthuan unlocks when you conquer Lothern, and when all other technologies in the categories are researched, you get access to Phoenix King. And finally, Conquer the World is kind of what it sounds like. It unlocks by conquering faraway places, and once you finish all of these late game trees, you get access to Eternity King. Morathi has gotten a new currency, Profane Hedonists, which she gains from having high chaos corruption and raising settlements. The Profane Hedonists can be spent on new technologies in the tech tree. The new technologies are unlocked by the House of Pleasure building available at tier 3. The top technologies mostly affect your pleasure cultists and casters, and the bottom technologies focus on Morathi, campaign buffs, and your cultists. The middle text buffs your sorceresses and gives you some campaign and combat buffs, and the text at the end gives your cultists very strong abilities. Lokhir Felheart has gotten the Kraken Spoils resource, which is gained from raiding and raising, and the more of it you have, you gain more post-battle chance of stealing magical items, income from raiding, melee attack when attacking at sea, black arc growth, and income from black arcs. You can have a maximum of 10 Kraken Spoils for each black arcs you control. Kraken Spoils can be spent on a number of different technologies that all give strong buffs, but they also drain your Kraken Spoils each turn after researching it. Lokhir Felheart also has his own personal black arc and have access to unique landmarks that cost Kraken Spoils every turn. He also starts with the black arc that has access to a unique landmark. Rakarth has gotten the prize creature currency, which is both gained and spent in the technology tree. To gain prize creatures, you research these technologies. They all give 1 each turn, and they're unlocked by certain settlements around the world. There are 2 settlements per race, and they all give certain buffs to your monsters. The middle technologies give strong campaign buffs and all cost 50 each. Crone Hellebron still has her Death Knight mechanic, but now it also generates her new currency, Sacrificial Blood. Sacrificial Blood can be used to upgrade individual units, but can also be spent on technologies. The top 3 generally give combat buffs, while the bottom 3 generally give campaign buffs. Malus Darkblade still has his possession mechanic, but he also gained the new currency Willpower, which is gained through battle and is spent on unique technologies. The technologies focuses on Cold One units and Chariot units, both increasing the capacity of them and boosting their combat stats. And that was all the units and mechanics of the Dark Elves in SFO Grimhammer 2. If you liked the video or found it helpful, consider leaving a like, comment and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye!